I'm Emily, a 20-year-old college student in my junior year. Like many students, I love the social aspect of college, hanging out with friends, going to parties, and making memories. But one night, a seemingly fun frat party turned into a terrifying experience that made me rethink how I approach these situations. It was a Friday night, and my friends, Sarah, Jess, and I decided to go to a party at one of the popular fraternities on campus. We'd heard about their legendary parties, and this one was supposed to be the biggest of the semester. We were excited and spent the evening getting ready together, hyping each other up for the night ahead. When we arrived at the frat house, the place was packed. Music was blasting, people were dancing, and the energy was electric. We made our way through the crowd, grabbing drinks and mingling with people we knew. It felt like a typical college party, loud, chaotic, but fun. As the night went on, I met a guy named Matt. He was charming, good-looking, and seemed genuinely interested in me. We hit it off immediately, and I found myself completely into him. We talked and danced, and I was enjoying every moment of it. I'd had a few drinks by then and was feeling pretty buzzed. At one point, I needed to use the bathroom, so I told Matt I'd be right back. I was pretty drunk by this time, and without thinking, I set my drink down on a table outside the bathroom. The line for the bathroom was long, so by the time I got out, I was eager to get back to Matt. I grabbed my drink without a second thought and took a big gulp. We continued talking, but soon after, I started to feel strange. My head was spinning, and the room seemed to tilt around me. I could barely focus on what Matt was saying. I tried to shake it off, but the dizziness only got worse. Matt noticed and put a hand on my arm. "Whoa, Emily, you're looking really out of it. Maybe you've had too much to drink. Let's find a place for you to lie down," he said, his voice sounding distant and echoey. I was too disoriented to argue, so I let him guide me through the crowded room. My legs felt like jelly, and I could barely keep my eyes open. I heard him say something about taking me to one of the bedrooms upstairs. As we reached the stairs, everything became a blur. I could barely stand, and Matt practically had to carry me. Just as we were about to go up, I heard Sarah's voice behind me. "Hey, what's going on?" Sarah asked, her voice sharp with concern. Matt turned around, still holding on to me. "Oh, hey, she's just really drunk. I'm helping her find a place to lie down." But Sarah wasn't buying it. She stepped in front of us, her eyes narrowing as she looked at me. "Emily, are you okay?" she asked, her voice filled with worry. I tried to respond, but my words came out slurred and jumbled. Sarah's face darkened with realization, and she grabbed my other arm, pulling me away from Matt. "She's not just drunk," Sarah snapped, glaring at him. "What did you do to her?" Matt's expression shifted from concern to something more sinister. "Hey, back off. I'm just trying to help," he said, but there was a cold edge to his voice now. "Get away from her," Sarah shouted, causing a few people nearby to turn and look. Realizing that Sarah wasn't going to back down, Matt quickly let go of me, his eyes darting around nervously. Without another word, he turned and bolted through the crowd, disappearing into the sea of people. Sarah held on to me, helping me stay on my feet. "We need to get you out of here," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. She half carried me outside, where Jess was waiting. They managed to get me back to our dorm, where I slowly started to come back to my senses. As the effects of whatever I had ingested wore off, the full horror of what had almost happened hit me. The next day, we reported the incident to campus security. It turned out that Matt had a reputation for this kind of behavior, but he had always managed to slip away before anyone could prove anything. This time, though, Sarah's intervention had likely saved me from something far worse. That experience was a harsh wake-up call. I learned that no matter how fun and carefree a party might seem, it's crucial to stay aware of your surroundings and be cautious, especially when it comes to drinks. I'm just grateful that I had friends like Sarah and Jess who were looking out for me. Since that night, I've been much more careful at parties, and I always make sure to keep my drink in sight. College is supposed to be a time of fun and freedom, but it's also a time to be smart and protect yourself. It was the beginning of the semester, and I was excited to move into my new dorm. My previous roommate had transferred to another school, so I was assigned a new one. His name was Eric. From the moment we met, it was clear that Eric wasn't the talkative type. He was quiet, almost eerily so, and kept to himself. At first, I didn't mind. I figured he was just introverted or shy. The first thing I noticed was that Eric was a clean freak. He kept his side of the room immaculate. Everything was perfectly organized, not a speck of dust anywhere. It was almost obsessive. I didn't think much of it until one day when I came back to the dorm after class and found something strange. One of my socks was pinned to my headboard with a note attached. The note read, "I found this on my side of the room." The sock was perfectly clean, not out of place in any way. It struck me as odd that Eric would go to the trouble of pinning it there instead of just tossing it back to my side or mentioning it to me. I laughed it off as one of his quirks, though the note did make me a little uneasy. Days went by, and we continued to coexist without much interaction. Eric's silence was unsettling, but I tried to respect his space. Then, one weekend, my girlfriend, Megan, came over to hang out in my room. We were just watching a movie and talking, nothing out of the ordinary. But then Eric walked in. The moment he saw Megan, his entire demeanor changed. For the first time, he spoke more than just a few words. He introduced himself to Megan and started asking her questions about herself, what she was studying, where she was from, what she liked to do for fun. It was the most I had ever heard him talk, and it was almost as if he was a different person around her. Megan, being polite, engaged in the conversation, but I could tell she was a bit uncomfortable. After that day, Eric's behavior started to get even stranger. Megan began receiving weird gifts left at her apartment, flowers with no note, a box of chocolates, and even a small stuffed animal. She was freaked out and couldn't figure out how anyone knew where she lived. Then she found a note in her mailbox that read, "I'm always watching you." The handwriting matched the note I'd found on my headboard. Megan was terrified, and so was I. We both knew it had to be Eric, but we had no idea how he found out where she lived. We started avoiding him as much as possible, and I began staying at Megan's apartment more often to keep her safe. One night, we were hanging out at her place, trying to relax and forget about the whole situation. It was late, and we were getting ready for bed when we heard a noise coming from her bedroom. At first, we thought it might be the wind or something outside, but then we heard it again. A soft rustling sound, like someone moving around. My heart started racing, and I grabbed a baseball bat that Megan kept in the corner. "Stay here," I whispered to her as I slowly made my way to the bedroom. I pushed open the door and cautiously entered the room. The noise was coming from the closet. I took a deep breath and yanked the closet door open. There, crouched in the corner, was Eric. His eyes were wide and unblinking, and he was breathing heavily, like he'd been hiding there for hours. He didn't say anything, just stared at me with that same unsettling intensity. "Eric, what the hell are you doing here?" I demanded, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and anger. He didn't answer. Instead, he slowly stood up, still staring at me, and started to move as if to escape. But this time, I wasn't going to let him run. I lunged at him, pinning him to the ground with the bat pressed against his chest. Megan called the police, her voice trembling as she explained the situation. The minutes before the cops arrived felt like an eternity. Eric didn't struggle or say a word. He just lay there, staring up at me with those cold, empty eyes. When the police finally arrived, they quickly took Eric into custody. He offered no resistance, didn't say a word, just let them take him away. The whole experience left Megan and me shaken. We never found out why Eric had become so obsessed with her, or how he managed to find out where she lived. He was expelled from the university, and we were told he would receive psychiatric evaluation and treatment. I'm Jessica, a 19-year-old freshman in college. My first semester had been full of excitement, making new friends and enjoying the newfound freedom of living on my own. But one night, that sense of freedom turned into a terrifying experience that I'll never forget. It was a Friday night, and my roommate, Kelly, was heading to a big party across campus. I was supposed to go with her, but I'd come down with a nasty cold and decided it was better to stay in and rest. Kelly had been sympathetic, but she was also excited about the party, so she left around 9 p.m., telling me to text her if I needed anything. I was bummed about missing the party, but I figured a quiet night in would do me some good. I made myself some tea, grabbed a blanket, and settled in to watch a movie. The dorm was quieter than usual, with most students out enjoying the weekend. About halfway through the movie, I got up to refill my tea. As I passed by the window, something caught my eye. Outside, in the dim light of the courtyard, I saw a man in a hooded jacket walking slowly along the path. He moved with an unsettling calm, almost like he was looking for something or someone. As I watched, he suddenly stopped and looked directly up at my window. My heart skipped a beat. It was as if he knew I was watching him. Panicked, I ducked down beneath the window, my breath catching in my throat. After a few moments, I cautiously peeked over the windowsill. The man was still there, staring up at my window with a cold, calculating gaze. Trying to shake off the fear, I told myself that he was probably just someone passing by and that I was overreacting. I was in a locked dorm after all. What could happen? I took a deep breath, got back on the couch, and resumed my movie, trying to push the unsettling encounter out of my mind. But just as I started to relax, my phone buzzed loudly, making me jump. It was an emergency alert from the campus security system. The message read, "Suspicious man seen walking around campus. Please stay inside and lock all doors. Await further instructions." My blood ran cold. It had to be the same man I saw outside. I leaped off the couch and rushed to the door, my hands trembling as I checked the lock. I twisted the deadbolt, making sure it was secure. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I could feel the panic rising. Not more than a few seconds after locking the door, I heard the unmistakable sound of the handle rattling. Someone was trying to get in. I froze in place, my mind racing with fear. Could it be Kelly? Maybe she forgot something and came back early? I quickly grabbed my phone and texted Kelly. "Are you trying to get into the room?" Her reply came almost instantly. "What?" "No, I just got to the party. I saw the text about the intruder. Are you okay?" A wave of terror washed over me. It wasn't Kelly at the door. I slowly approached the peephole, every nerve in my body on edge. When I looked through, I saw him. The man in the hood, his face partially hidden, but his eyes were unmistakable. He was the same one who had been outside. He must have sensed me looking, because he leaned closer to the door and whispered in a low, menacing voice, "I know you're in there." My heart felt like it was about to explode. I stumbled back from the door, my hands shaking as I dialed campus security. The phone rang, each second feeling like an eternity, before someone finally picked up. I quickly explained what was happening, my voice trembling. "We'll send someone right away," the dispatcher said, trying to sound calm, but I could hear the urgency in their voice. As I waited, the man outside began to pound on the door, each bang making me jump. "Come on, let me in," he taunted, his voice growing more aggressive. "I just want to talk." Tears welled up in my eyes as I backed away from the door, praying that campus security would arrive in time. The banging grew louder, more frantic, and I could hear him ramming his shoulder against the door, trying to break it down. I clutched my phone, desperately texting Kelly, telling her what was happening. She responded with frantic messages, saying she was trying to find someone to help, but I knew it was up to campus security to save me. Just as I thought the door might give way, I heard the distant sound of sirens. The man must have heard them too, because the banging suddenly stopped. I held my breath, listening intently. After a few moments of silence, I dared to look through the peephole again. He was gone. A few minutes later, campus security arrived, and I unlocked the door with trembling hands. They checked the area, but the man had vanished. They assured me they would increase patrols around the dorms and advised me to stay with friends for the night. Kelly came back from the party immediately after hearing what had happened, and I spent the rest of the night in her room, unable to sleep. The image of the man's cold eyes and the sound of his voice haunted me. Thanks so much for listening to Nightmare Narratives. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be reminded when we post a new video every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Time. If you have a story you'd like to hear read on the channel, email it to us at officialnightmarenarratives@gmail.com, and you might just hear your story featured in a future episode. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.